In this video, we're going to talk about the unwritten rules of baseball. What's going on, guys? Coach Matt and YouGoProBaseball. I'm here with the man, Matt Antonelli, Antonelli Baseball. In this video, we're going to talk about the unwritten rules of baseball. You made a video on your channel, the top 10 unwritten rules of baseball.
Everyone yelled at me for it, yep.
So we're going to talk about it. We're just going to wing it back and forth. We haven't really thought about this, so Matt will go first, then I'll go, and we'll see how many we can get. What do you, go ahead, talk about it.
All right, before we talk about this, can I just explain real quick about unwritten rules?
Yes, please.
Because I made a video about this. It got a lot of views. Everyone yelled at me. Like, why do you agree with this? Is terrible. Like, I will say this. When you're playing, right? So when we're playing, there's a lot of stuff. You don't even know what an unwritten rule is, right? Like, no one really knows. But this is for real. Like, when we played, if you did something that was one of the unwritten rules, somebody would tell you not to do that. Like, I had a bunch of managers, I can name a bunch actually, where I would do something and I broke an unwritten rule, no clue that it happened, walk back to the dugout, they'd come over, some would put their arm around you, some would just yell at you, but they would tell you, like, hey, don't ever do that again. Like, we don't do that at this level, right? I've gotten that talk like 5-6 times. So when people are like, you know, questioning unwritten rules and why would you think that? Because coaches and managers told us that, and we realized, oh, there's no written rule about that, but apparently at this level, you don't do it. So that's the first thing, because people are confused. But I'll say this, first unwritten rule that comes to mind for me is never bunt to break up a no-hitter. Now, you're a pitcher, actually. Maybe I should have asked you this. Would you get mad if you had a no-hitter going and somebody bunted off you to break up the no-hitter? Does that make a pitcher mad?
I mean, yeah, I would be upset, but not so much that he did it, but that the no-hitter was broken up. Yeah, so I wouldn't.
So my thought of this is I wouldn't bunt to break up a no-hitter in most cases, but I do feel like if I was a big bunter and it was a close game, right? It's a no-hitter, but it's 1-0, it's 2-0, and we're maybe even 3-0, like, we're trying to win the game. Like, congratulations, you have a no-hitter, but like, I'm not happy. I'm getting no hit.
Right.
So I'm fine with bunting it. I will say this though, if you were pitching and it was 10-0 and someone bunted to break up a no-hitter, I think you're throwing at somebody.
Yeah, okay, that's right. That's a different story. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it was a blowout and we're late in the game. And
yeah, like ninth inning, even 8th inning, losing by, and I don't know what the exact number is. Like, what's the number? But if it's 8-0, I'd be swinging the bat there. So we'll start with that. Don't bunt to break up a no-hitter.
All right, that's number one. Number two that I'm thinking of is more of a pro ball thing, and it is you don't call your coach. And I learned this from Wally Whitehurst.
Wally was the best. Don't mess with Wally.
So I get off the plane. I got drafted. Matt was drafted a year after me, but when you break camp, you break mini camp, and then you go to short season, which is in Eugene, Oregon, and Wally was my pitching coach. And we're on the plane, we get off the plane, and I go, hey, coach, I'm fresh out of college. We still call coach.
And you had to call, at least for me, in college, if you didn't call coach, you were getting yelled at. Disrespectful.
So I go up to Wally and go, hey, coach, do I got time to run over here real quick? And he looks at me and he goes, who the are you calling coach? And I'm like, he goes, my name's Wally. He said, you call me Wally.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, yes, sir.
Exactly.
And you don't call the umpire Blue, right?
Don't call him Blue. Yeah, they all want the same thing. When you're in college, you get a different umpire. You might not see the same umpire the whole year. Just call him Blue, or even ump.
Right.
And growing up, that's what you say. So I teach our young kids this, and maybe, I don't know if this is right or wrong, but we got yelled at so much for doing it, is that even for like our 10-year-olds, when someone says like, hey, Blue, I start to shake. I'm like, I have flashbacks and I'm like, hey, just call him, his name's Jim, just call him Jim. And I make sure I do that also. But yeah, that's another really good one. Don't call the umpire ump or Blue.
Yeah, that's a good one. I was writing it when I was coaching for a while. I would make sure when you do the plate meeting, or if you know beforehand, you would get the umpire's name, and I would always write it on the lineup so the guys had it, and I'd always tell them to know that. And at least for me, that always made it better when I was in the field or pitching or something. If the guy called something, you know, it's better to say, "Hey, Jim, you know, what's going on there?"
Right.
They respect that a lot more than, you know, not even calling them by their name or acting like they're terrible, which a lot of people do anyway.
Well, and I remember
Some of them are
actually,
terrible.
I remember in pro ball, I'd always see that. You look at the lineup card, right, in the dugout, and it would always have, you know, you'd have the diamond, and they'd write in, you know, Jim, Brian, or whatever. And I'm always like looking at it, and then I started to realize, like, oh, that's a good idea, like you said. Now I don't forget the guy's name, because when I go to home plate as a coach, you know, you say hello to everybody, and half the time I'm thinking about something else, and I'm not even listening to what their names are. And then you get stuck calling them coach or ump or blue, and then you get yelled at. So, you want me to give another one, or
If you got one, go.
Okay, how about, this is another one I got to ask you. Never run on the pitcher's mound when entering or exiting the field. I know pitchers, there was actually a fight, I think. Didn't A-Rod run across the pitcher's mound at some point? I think Dallas Braden didn't like that or something like that. But it was always like, don't ever run across the pitcher's mound. Would you take offense to that as a pitcher if that happened? Or is that something maybe just because, you know, I'm a hitter, so I'm always getting out and then having to run back to the dugout?
I'm so far removed from the game that I want to say no, but I think maybe yes. If, you know, thinking back now, because I was a very intense competitor.
Yeah.
And I would like stare down guys and like spit at guys, not spit on them, but like, you know, from the mound, like, come on, what are you gonna do? You know, like that.
Right.
So I was a very intense competitor, but I don't think that would bother me. Like,
See,
I don't.
Yeah, because as a hitter, we were told, like, if somebody ran across the mound, people would tell us, like, no, never run across the mound. That's interesting that as a pitcher, see, some of these unwritten rules are silly because some pitchers aren't even going to get upset at it, but as hitters, we're told, don't do that.
Well, Bobby Valentine, he was, you know, big league manager here in the States for a while, coached in Japan for a while. I remember him saying one time, you know, I've got these unwritten rules. I'm trying to, you know, tell it to the translator, and he's trying to translate it over here, and they don't understand what he's saying because he doesn't understand what I'm saying because there's no rule books for the unwritten rule. He's like, now I got these unwritten rules, and they're untranslatable. These guys have no idea what everybody's confused. So,
You're right.
And that's how it seems in English anyway.
Yeah, you're right. And it usually is always a manager that's been around for a long time. Because I think especially back in the day, like, they were unwritten, but they might as well have been written because they were taken so seriously.
Etched in stone.
They were. And now I look at a lot of this stuff. I've changed my whole perspective on unwritten rules. If you look at my video from when I just got out of pro ball, I was like, yeah, never do this, never do that, never. And my thing for everything was, if somebody does this, what do you do as a pitcher? You drill them, you hit them. If someone did this, you hit them, right? And now, like, I'm removed as a player, and I'm like, what are we doing? Like, why are we hitting guys? There's no reason to be drilling guys for this. Now they throw 100 miles an hour, so not a good idea.
Get someone hurt. And this is definitely, I think we're speaking in this video more in regards to pro baseball. So, if you're taking any of this out of context for youth baseball, please do not. This is more for the older crowd. What about kind of on the same line? And this is maybe more superstitious, and maybe you have some of these that you did, but like guys jumping over the line, the foul line to get into the field.
Oh, I'll say 100%. I never in my life would step on a line. If I see somebody step on a line now, I'm like, what's wrong with this guy? Like, what are you just stepped on the line, man. Like, I'm watching for kids to make sure they don't step on the line. Why? I have no idea, but it's like never. I would never step on a line. I'm hopping over that thing. Why? I don't think anyone ever said, like, don't ever touch the lines.
Right.
But I think someone clearly told somebody at some point, I don't know, in 1950, they said don't step on the lines, and then it just passed down. But like everybody, like you see one guy, oh, he hopped over that line. I'm gonna hop over that line too. I'm not touching it, so I don't know. I don't know where it came from.
Oh man, what's another one?
So I always go I'm always going to the offensive player's perspective because that's what I did. But it was always, and this one, I changed my opinion on this. It was never steal when you're up by a lot or down by a lot. And the same thing, never bunt when you're up by a lot or down by a lot. And what I realized, and what a lot of people yelled at me for in the comments of my video, was the game's never over. We've seen games even in the big leagues that are 12-2, and somehow the other team came back. So just play the game all 9 innings. You got to steal. You got to bunt. I really agree with that because I don't think any lead is insurmountable. Whether you're on defense, right, or you're on offense. Either way, if you're losing, why am I not stealing? I'm supposed to try to win the game. I'm going to try to win the game. If you're up by 10 runs, I'm trying to pad my lead, right? So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Just play. And most players, you know, maybe I'll say this, maybe if you're really young and you're winning by 10, you shouldn't steal, okay? If you're really, really young. But I think at some point as you get older, play the game as hard as you can for the whole game. And then afterwards, you know, you can go give handshakes and hugs and love the other team. But when you're competing on the field, just try to win the game or try to come back if you're losing. So that's my thought.
All right, I got one for you. And I wanted to know your perspective as a position player.
Yeah.
Don't eat the spread
Ever.
before the position players are done with BP. Because pitchers are notorious for sliding up to the
and then we come in and there's no food left. Can I say one thing about this? I don't care if you eat all the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I don't really care. I didn't want to eat that stuff anyway. So I'm gonna hit BP say I hope John eats all of that peanut butter and jelly because I hate peanut butter. But I will say though, if it's a good spread, like when you're in the low minors, like you remember the spreads in like Eugene, like they're terrible.
Peanut butter jelly, we called it minor league steak.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. Minor league steak. And I never ate. I lost like 30 pounds that year because I couldn't eat any of the spreads. But yeah, when you get to a higher level, I agree. You, as a position player, especially where pitchers do nothing all day, you know, they just sit around and eat the spread. Like I just worked hard out there. I want to come in and eat the good stuff. You guys eat all the good stuff and leave all the, you know, whatever. Oh, this mac and cheese is terrible. Leave it for the position players. Like that's messed up.
Was Scotty your guy in Eugene?
Yes.
Oh, carrots. A lot of carrots we had. And
I didn't even get carrots.
Did you play with Benji, the hitting coach, Benji Ogilvy?
I didn't.
Anyway, he was an old hitting coach, and he would say, "Yeah, eat those carrots, boys. You ever see a bunny rabbit with eyeglasses on? That's because they eat their carrots. You want to hit good, you eat those carrots."
That's why I didn't hit,
We were
apparently.
just crushing carrots all year long. Shout out to Scotty. Thank you, buddy.
I never got carrots. He just went back to peanut butter and jelly. I don't know why. Benji left, I guess, and they
Benji
took the carrots with him.
And Scotty's like, "Man, I ain't buying these carrots no more.
Right.
Benji's gone."
Right. That's a good one.
Shoot. What else we got? Oh, what about bats? Any unwritten rules from the clubbies with bats and like how to, you know, getting bats or breaking bats? Oh, I got one. I don't know if this is true. You tell me as a hitter. I was a pitcher, and maybe I only know this rule because I was a pitcher.
Sure.
And we used to borrow bats from the.
Don't break mine.
Yeah, if you break. So if I go to Antonelli, I'm going to take BP today, which doesn't happen very often. I go, "Yo, Ant, let me borrow a bat." If I break that bat in BP, I owe him 2 bats. That's an unwritten rule.
Number one unwritten rule is don't pass your bats out to any pitcher. Most of them can't hit. So if you come to me and ask for a bat, I'm like, no, sorry. This guy, did you hit in college? Yeah, I hit a little bit here. You can take my bat. So make sure you give it to a good pitcher. Most pitchers can't hit anyway. But yeah, I totally agree. Like especially depends what level you're at. I think most people assume that, you know, any level you just get tons of bats sent to you. That's not the case. When you're in the low minors, you get 2 bats from the clubby. If you break one, you got to turn it in, get another one. But the other thing is, every bat's a little different. So like this bat right here, I can just take this bat, go like this and say, I like this bat a lot. You're not getting this bat ever.
Right.
So if I only have a few bats and I love all of them, I'm not giving you my bat for batting practice. Right. Because you know how many times I've taken a bat, it's lasted me 2 weeks, I love it, it breaks, I go home and cry. Like it's my baby. So I would never pass out my bats to a pitcher.
And don't ever take one out of someone's locker without asking, right?
No, it's kind of like the rule, like don't put your hand in someone's glove, right? Like
that's another one.
You can't do that. Actually, I take that back. I wasn't a good fielder, so I was just like, whatever, just put your hand, I don't care. But like, if you go to the really good fielders, remember the guys that they would take their glove, and when we went on a trip, they would never put it in their bag. You see guys on the plane with their gloves, you know, with them, because you can't put it in a bag because it might break, it might bend the wrong way. Again, you can tell how good a fielder they are. Because for me, I just threw it in my bag, I stepped on it, I'm like, what do I care? I can't field anyway. But like the really good players, they're not going to do that. So that's another unwritten rule. Don't put your hand in someone's glove. Because maybe you go 2 fingers in the pinky slot. Yeah. Maybe you know, whatever. There's a bunch of different ways
to. Or you smell, or you stink.
That's true too.
I mean, as a pitcher, I didn't want someone putting their hand in my glove, but no one was trying to wear my glove, so it didn't really matter.
It's true.
What else? We talked about stealing. We talked about
other unwritten rules. Well, I got a superstition one.
All right.
I don't know if there's an unwritten rule actually. But were you ever someone that like didn't like wash things? Like, oh, I have my lucky socks. I got to wear my lucky socks. You know, I just threw a complete game shutout. I just closed it out, 6 innings.
Yeah.
Like, I got to make sure I wear my lucky socks again, or I'm not going to wash my undershirt. I had some players that, they stunk, but they were pretty good.
We had a catcher that we both played with. He was wearing some thing for like a month. It was like a wrap or something around his belly, and he was crushing. I was like, please keep that thing on.
Keep it going.
You're smacking the ball and you're catching amazing.
Yeah, if I eat Fruit Loops before the game, like at the low level, not rookie ball because you don't get it there, maybe like high A, eat Fruit Loops before the game and I go 3 for 4 with a homer, I'm eating Fruit Loops the next day and I'm just going to keep eating them.
Oh, man. Well, that's all I can think of.
We named, there's literally like 1,000 unwritten rules.
And you won't learn them until you get yelled at. So just see, it's life experience. Get out there, do your thing. And it changes all the time. You know, we used to believe in some of these a lot and maybe not so much anymore.
And a lot of them I feel like are starting to go away. For whatever reason, I don't know. I think people are like, that's stupid. Like, why did anyone do that? And so now they're just kind of slowly starting to drift away. But there's still some that exist.
So there you go. Those are the unwritten rules of baseball. Matt's got a top 10 unwritten rules of baseball on his channel. I'll leave a link down below where you can go watch that one. Also, he's got a great hitting program. It's called Building the Elite Swing. So if you're a dad of a young player, 9 through high school age, it really focuses on the fundamentals. Got a bunch of drills in there, 30 drills. I'll leave a link down below where you can get that to really focus on developing as a hitter. It was a fun video.
Yeah, it was very good.
If you want some more videos like this, let us know in the comment section down below. We'd love to make some more for you. If you got any questions, hit us up down there. Subscribe to Antonelli Baseball on YouTube. YouGoProBaseball. I'll see you in the next video.